Welcome to PV Magazine. We are at Intersolar. I'm speaking to Christian Pho Duc, CTO of Smart Energy. Hello, Christian. Great that you are here. What are the most relevant hydrogen topics and news we have heard this year?
Hi Michael, pleased to talk again, and in fact 2023 we consider a decisive year for hydrogen. There has been so much policy ongoing, especially some uncertainties are now kind of out of the way, which so far hindered a bit to go to final investment decision of projects. We have defined where does the renewable energy come from, the additionality, it has to do still a final release, but in terms of definition it's there. What are the rules where you can say it's renewable hydrogen from a new source of renewable sources from solar, wind. On top of that, we have also defined what does it mean if you do RFNBO, renewable fuels of non-biologic origin or recycled carbon fuels. What are the greenhouse gas emissions required that you comply with? So there is a lot of definitions now ongoing and defined finally that we can say, okay, what is the business case? What is really the amount of investment we need to take to achieve these targets? And on top of that, in fact, the targets, that's the RED, yeah, the energy directive, renewable energy directive that says what each sector shall achieve. First of all, 42.5% renewables.
It all happened on EU level. Is that just the final thing, or has it to be realized also by the national government?
Luckily on these targets, these top level targets are all for the member states. There is some rules where there is a freedom from the member states to define some details and also to go for a bit lower threshold, but it's on the details. On the top side, the targets are set. And actually also specifically for hydrogen, we have clear rules now, meaning industry has to take in future by 2030, 42% of the hydrogen they use today needs to be renewable hydrogen.
And in 2030?
2030. Okay. And so this is a clear business case now for those who produce hydrogen and for the industry, a motivation to adapt their processes to accept renewable hydrogen.
Is there already so much hydrogen used in industry? Is it really a significant amount?
Luckily, yes. Luckily, yes. We have roughly in Europe 10 million tons of hydrogen being used already today. The target which has been set for hydrogen overall by 2030 is 20 million tons, kind of doubling with new applications. But already these 10 million tons is a very important part of decarbonization. So with that, we are quite kind of positive, and we see by our own projects now that those we interact with see the necessity to invest and to do the trials to see how the usage of hydrogen into their current processes work, and also change processes where instead of current ways to produce their goods or to produce their heat can be done with hydrogen.
And what is your guess? Will this hydrogen for this application mainly be imported from other countries, or will it be produced here? Will it drive the market in Europe?
That's a very good question. I mean, Europe has done a very clear commitment to also import, which is clear because we don't have enough renewables here to support all the change, especially of the molecule energy. And there needs import. So right now it's kind of a 50-50 target by the European vision. Now the question is, will it be by 2030 really 50-50, 10 million tons, 10 million tons? Well, my guess in fact is it will be a bit more towards import. Why? Well, on the large scale projects, this is a bit easier to do outside Europe. In Europe, we have a great opportunity to do projects which are kind of closed ecosystems where you have a certain size which fits very well the more local office.
Where can use the heat?
Exactly, where we can combine the heat use, where we have hydrogen valleys. This is a very nice concept, but in terms of real large scale, like gigawatt scale projects, Europe a bit difficult, so I think there will be a good share of import coming.
If we say the target is 40% by 2030, I mean, one thing is the target, the other question is how you make this target happen. I mean, will there be obligations for the industry, or will that be done?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge investment. We need to think about what this means in terms of production. Is hundreds of billions of investment into production side, hundreds of billions into the off-taking side. So the question, will these projects really happen like that? The good thing is that if you consider not to do it, and what this means, and what your CO2 impact will be, and what also the costs related to it will be, and what your future potential to sell your product will be, in the end, these things need to happen. Whether we really hit the full target, we will see. However, it's clear that right now, these projects are being discussed and finalized at a level which was never as developed as before. Right now, the details are being discussed.
I mean, the other big market you mentioned is the biofuels. I mean, we had this discussion in the past, so people think that one can do a lot with biofuels, but I mean, we already use them. So also this is an existing market as far as I see.
Absolutely.
What can you point out on this?
Absolutely. So besides this industry target, the mobility is very important, and it's a huge amount of energy which comes through these fuels, and the target has been set to 5.5% of renewable fuels, and thereof 1% of renewable fuels of non-biologic origin.
So this is then hydrogen-based.
Exactly. This is, let's say, almost all will be hydrogen-based. And this 1% doesn't seem too much, but if you really calculate how much this is compared to what we have today in hydrogen production, and this is all new application, this is quite a lot. And so we have on the one hand side the target for fuels overall, and especially in aviation, there's even specific routes and targets on top. So there's a clear, how can I say, incentive for these industries right now to move and to prepare their fleets, their engines, their fuel cells for this application, and projects are really based on that.
And the new rules on additionality, what does these mean for PV, PV operators?
Yeah, that's a hot topic. My personal view is we have a strong scarcity of renewable energy and PV until 2030 for sure. And for me, although I'm a big promoter of hydrogen, obviously electrification is the first thing to do. So if we go into electrification, we suddenly realize, okay, we still need kind of 200 gigawatts or so on top by 2030 to do the 100 gigawatt of electrolyzer roughly in Europe, which is the target. So the additionality, coming to your question, is an essential topic because you cannot just cannibalize itself. You need to have a clear concept. And if you have this under your control, meaning you develop your own renewables, and you, with this, you make a joint business case with the hydrogen, you can secure that you can overcome the additionality topic. So some kind of this closed loop is one approach. The other one, to mention this as well, there is the additionality allows also in regions where there's more than 90% renewables managed in the electricity mix. There you can do projects also without further restrictions, meaning I see also a trend that those countries going to this high share will also attract hydrogen projects and will be also kind of combination of hydrogen valleys with this high share, a new sweet spot for hydrogen.
But I mean, maybe ask a bit more simple. How do I prove if I'm a PV operator and sell my electricity for hydrogen production? How can I prove that it's additional, that the additionality is fulfilled?
This is a topic of big dispute and criticism right now, because this kind of additionality rules goes into the level by 2030. In fact, it goes even to the 1 hour and below, proving of this electricity really has been produced at the same time as used for hydrogen. And we see that this mechanism potentially can be done maybe in some countries in Europe to be proven. But if you then also think about import into Europe and the same mechanisms shall apply, this is almost impossible. So there is a big dispute. Are we again doing things too complicated? And will this also hinder the hydrogen?
Isn't that unfair for the European producers? Because if you are outside Europe, you cannot prove, so you don't have to do it. And inside Europe, you have to prove, and you have just much more restrictions?
Yeah, let me give a practical answer. There is, by 2028, a revision of all these rules planned. And the revision will show if by then the rules we have are too difficult to have a large-scale deployment of hydrogen, and we see in other countries like in US with the Inflation Reduction Act, or in Japan with their program, Australia, others, which kind of make simple approaches, more simple approaches for hydrogen, and we see, oh, not only the production, but also the supply chain moves to these countries and goes away from here. Well, I think we may review a bit some of the rules.
But you said there's still a dispute. Does it mean it is already law, this additionality, how you explained it, or is there still room for improvement now?
Let's say there is no room right now to change on the details. It's just all the negotiation has been done, so the proposal is there, and now it's just about the finalization in the parliament. And it's ongoing. It's expected any time, but it's a hot dispute. And but there's no room right now to change anymore in the parameters. This is done now. It's either we take it or not. As it has failed already one time, to fail it a second time would be really a drama. Let's call it. We need investment decisions. So the hydrogen economy right now says better rules, which some we really like, some are a bit complex, but better we have them and we can move forward than to stop them and restart somewhere in another year without being able to invest.
I think you are quite positive about the European market at the moment. You have your own project planned in Europe. I mean, you reported a lot on them on our PV Magazine roundtables. What is the status?
Well, luckily, we really can say that things have been moving forward. We have a range of projects which go from the smaller size, 5 gigawatt, up to 100 gigawatt scale electrolyzer in Europe. And the good news is in Portugal, where we did a lot of activities, we got funding confirmations for already 2 projects. Other projects got a lot of progress in the various development items, which is permitting, which is being registered as a gas producer, which is environmental assessment. So these projects go ahead, and on top, what I mentioned before, especially the off-taking side, the industry. We are working with the ceramic industry, we're working with the cement industry. We move forward. The discussions now are not anymore, it would be nice to do such a project. Right now we are discussing on price level, volume level, guarantees level, and this is in definition right now, meaning we have some projects at final investment decision now and some project in high maturity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.